All right, welcome back to Tabletop Thoughts. We're going to try to get a little bit of work here done tonight since I am off my second job. Today while I was at work, I used my FDM printer. I'm getting low on this black filament on this roll, so I had it run something that didn't take up a whole lot, which are the 6 snake men from Fat Dragon Games. So let's pop them off of here. Have a quick look at them. They are made to be printed supportless. If you see here, we're already part of the model, so and they just break off. That keeps that elbow okay. So he holds his bow and arrow, as you can see. So I have 3 different models from Fat Dragon Games. There's one with a bow, one with a spear, and one with a sword and shield. So I don't know if it shows up in the camera, but there's like a little bit of wisp string. So I'm gonna bust out heat gun. Always nice to have. Sorry for the noise. Just put on the lowest setting, wait for it to get a little warm, and just real quick go over it. And all the little strings disappear. You don't want to leave it on long enough for it to get soft. You just want to hit it so those tiny little strings will instantly just melt away. They almost like evaporate. That piece is a little long. I'll come back and get that, let it cool down a little bit. But there we go. And that one little piece, it's always nice to have a craft knife laying around. There we go. So those I would consider done. They're ready for priming. I'm not even sure if I'm going to prime these guys. They're black. That's the nice thing about using a black filament. If you just go ahead and paint, acrylic paint sticks nicely to PVA or PLA. Sorry, PLA. PVA is something totally different. All right. So I glued him to a base. I still have to prime him and go over him, check him out, make sure I got all the little where the supports were on it, clean that all up. Not going to do that tonight, although I got this guy primed up. He's ready to go for a quick dry brush. And I also still have the 3 Shamblers from EC3D Design. I might keep 2 of them as bare PLA, and I might just dry brush up 1 of them tonight, and then he can get a painting this week. And then I'm thinking of putting some of these in my Etsy store, just so, you know, a few little new things in there I haven't had for a while. Alright, so let's get ready to dry brush. Alrighty. So, if you go to Dollar Tree or even Dollar General, they have these makeup brushes. I work at a Dollar General. You don't get any kind of discount, but I always get a chance to look at them. This is a foundation brush. It's very soft. These make very nice dry brushes, especially if you have a huge area to go over, like I'm going to go over this whole entire thing. You know, bust them out. It's $1. I try to take care of them and clean them and everything when I'm done, but you know, I have some nice dry brushes I spend some money on, but these do almost as good as the job for hardly any money, and then I don't feel guilty throwing these away. So start with my palette. Get ourselves some Just some cheap craft paint. I'm not going crazy and dropping any money on this. It's an undercoat. And we will do a dry brush. So load the brush, wipe it all off. We want to get most of the paint off of this guy. And that's the nice thing about these paper plates. I get the ones that are uncoated. That way the plate will try to suck in some of the paint, leaving me with hardly any. And as you can see, all of the texture just pops out going over this. Like, look at the wings. Like, you can see all of that. See, that's what it looked like. You can just see the texture pop out with this dry brush. And then make sure we get the base and everything. And when it starts to get a little light, we'll just come back and load up the brush again. Wipe as much as we can get off. I have this cutting mat. I've had this forever. And that's what you can see. A little bit of paint on it. I don't care. I have some nicer ones off to the side that I actually use for cutting. This is more just a work mat now. But we'll just come in, get the base, make sure we get the drag in, get all of around. We're going to do the wings. It might be a little hard for you guys to see, but we're going to try to get the wings. Nice thing about supportless prints like these, this is from Bright Minis, that they are made to be supportless to print on an FDM printer. So this one was printed FDM printer on my Elegoo Neptune 3 Pro. But normally these kind of minis are a little beefier because FDM printers don't do real fine details. Like, you can't have a sword like, let me find a guy here, like something like this guy. Awesome miniature. This is from The Printing Goes Ever On. This is their version of Legolas. But yeah, you can't print that on an FDM printer very easily. It's too thin, it'll just break. This stuff's a little beefier, therefore, you still have to be careful, but you can put a little pressure on it. So you can do a dry brush like this, you can do a slap chop, and you don't have to worry about it breaking. It's kind of a little bit thicker, a little more durable. That's another reason I like these. That's why I am a Patreon supporter of Bright Minis. You pay a little extra, but I think it's $5 a month. You have access to their entire repository, and for $10 a month, like I pay, you get a commercial license. So if I wanted to, I could, print these and sell them. I have sold some back in the past. If I get back into it and I get enough of them up there, I might actually put some more back on my Etsy store. But I just like their miniature, so I don't mind spending $10 a month, even if I don't sell anything. But there you go. There is a miniature ready total for speed paints. You could probably get something like this knocked out in one night. Maybe we'll try to get some more work done on this on Friday or something like that. But tonight I am just doing some dry brushing, so not too bad. Since I'm going to paint up one of these shamblers, we will drop a quick dry brush on this guy as well. This means you want to be light. You want it you don't want to force it into the crevices and stuff like that. You want the shadows to appear. You're just really trying to hit the highest points on this, because I could go back in with some browns and greens, and that will make this guy look like a shambling mound, which is, this is from EC3D Design. This is their shambling mound, and I think it looks just as good, if not better, than the WizKids shambling mound. I did get one of those and I painted it up, and don't get me wrong, it looks nice, but that's for something that I can print. That's probably cost me $1 at most between materials and time. Paint, if you're like me, I probably got a couple $100 worth of paint between cheap craft paints like, you know, I got some of these that I use for terrain. You're paying 50 cents or $1 a bottle. And then I go to my local game store and you get, you know, like miniature paints. I can, when I get a chance, if I go in and he has them on sale or something like that. If I'm not getting speed paints, I like Citadel. And I like to get the air variety because it's already thinned down some. Because when you have a standard paint like, here's something from Game Color. This is a brown. I didn't even write on it what it is, but this is from Vallejo, I think. I don't know, but these are a little thicker, so you have to water them down before you can use them. If you get the air ones, they already water down some because this is made to be put into an airbrush, which I do have. I use my airbrush mostly for going in for like my delicate miniatures and doing a zenithal highlight. But these are already thinned down enough. You can just drop it right into like a fidget popper, or if you shake them up, pop the top, you can use it as the palette. And you don't have to worry about thinning them down so much. But there we go. See? The details pop. You can see where the shadows are going to be. Try to get a little bit more back on that back leg. I'm coming this way and this way. Just need some highlights. And if you're gonna go a little bit on the whiter side, the whiter side. Sorry, I do have a lisp. But you keep it towards the top of the mini, like where you want to draw the attention. You always want the where you want the eyes to go is where you want it to be the lightest. That naturally draws your eyes up there. So we'll put it on his face. You know, like his leg will have a little highlight, but you don't care if they're looking at his legs. You want them to look at his face. Not too bad. Alright, stick him to the side. These two, yeah, I'm just going to keep bare. Just drop them in my Etsy store that way. That way if somebody goes, hey, I want to paint up one of those and you want to practice, they'll be relatively inexpensive. I put stuff on my store just because I enjoy printing. It's almost like a hobby in itself. Just watching and see, you know, slicing them, I rather enjoy it. So these guys will go into the store that way. That way if somebody wants to get it, you can do the printing and, I mean, the painting at home all you want. Alright. This guy, I really like this guy. Only thing is, I'm not sure if I want to do a dry brush on him like that, or if I want to bust out the airbrush. Well, I'm not going to do that tonight, but if I decide to dry brush them, that's me. I'm looking them over. Spikes are a little fragile, but they're not too bad. You can see I can go over them. Not worrying about that. The rest of it, I bet he's a good handle up to it. Let's give it a try. That's me. Worst case is I break them. I can always glue them. Always print another. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Make sure I don't have too much paint on the brush. There we go. There we go.
Hey, who's calling at you?
Oh, there's my wife. We have 7 cats. 3 of them are kittens that we rescued. All of them are rescued pretty much. But, yeah. So we got everything from like 4 months old kittens up to like, I think Ladybug is our oldest. She's like 15. So, always cats. And of course, they all get along for the most part. They don't fight or anything like that, but some of them are a little, like if anybody goes near them, especially the kittens and they're playing, the older ones are just like, yeah, they'll growl a little. Don't play next to me. I'm too old to put up with that. As I'm getting older, I totally understand how they feel. But yeah, what are the details popping out of this guy? That's me. I'm thinking color-wise, I almost want to do it like a lion color. You know, come in with like a yellow. I have a couple of different yellows in speed paint. Here's a maize yellow. The other one's like zealot yellow, I believe. Do the body fur in that yellow. Something a little lighter for the, darker for the mane. Go with a, I don't know, like a hardened leather or something. Just to make it like a brown, but I want it to definitely be darker so you can tell. Then all the spikes in that, of course, you're going to go in with like a bone color. The claws will be bone. The tail, I would go with a yellow, except for the stinger. Maybe go with a bone for that. But yeah, he's beefy enough. I don't, you do it gently because, one, you don't want to get paint everywhere, like down in all the crevices. You kind of want to keep it on the highest surfaces. And two, he will break. He is resin. But you can see. There you go. It brings out the detail pretty well on him, I'd say. Let me see if I can get a good, there you go. Not too bad. So, see if there's anybody else in here when I got a few more minutes to do this. There's a guy. A couple of guys. Anybody else in here? I think everybody else is waiting for an airbrush, but oh, there we go. This over too. This is something I got. I think it was from the printing goes ever on. It's called a public square, and it is just really like a public square. It's just a rocky building. This is definitely solid. The only thing I can tell, this is all FDM printed. If I lay it down, this corner peeled up a little bit. Even though I had it on a raft, it still peeled up. I don't know. I could try to heat it up with a heat gun and try to straighten it out, but at this point, I don't know. We'll see what I feel like when I dig it out later. But finish off the night. Got a pair of these guys. They're Mothman from Bright Minis. We'll just give them a quick dry brush just to pull their details out, and then they'll be ready for a quick speed paint. Just drop some speed paints on it, a little slap chop. I've been painting minis for a long time, and sometimes, I find it relaxing, but sometimes you just want to get some stuff done. You've been printing like me. I got buckets, buckets of miniatures I eventually have to paint or give away, that I just enjoy the process of printing. I like, doing the slicing and getting it into the printer and watching it print. But, you start getting a backlog. The slap chop method, I saw it and I'm like, I'm going to give that a try, and I really like doing it because it makes, you can get some miniatures that are table quality, we'll call it, out quickly, which would be nice. Especially if you're playing a game and you're like, hey, I need, a couple of Mothmen for my game this weekend. You can easily get them printed. You don't have to spend a lot of time painting them. I normally spend a little bit more time painting miniatures that are going to be like the heroes and stuff like that. Like, here's some guys I printed up. I was going to use if I ever get a game running of like Neon Skies by Wylock. But, he's speed painted. But you go through and you spend more time getting some details, like the little thing in his head. I tried to get his eyes a little better. Or this guy. There's some cyberpunk stuff. but you spend a little more time on stuff if it's gonna be a player character. This guy's gonna be on the board, you know, pretty much every time we play. Whereas, you know, unless he's the most recurring villain, Mothman is gonna show up. He'll be alive for a few rounds. The players will kill him, and that'll be the end of it. So, you know, you give him a good paint job, but he doesn't have to be great. You know, table standard is good enough, especially for somebody who's gonna show and be gone in like 5-10 minutes. But those guys look pretty good. All right, something else I'm going to try to do. This is from Bright Minis. This is a wyvern. I did one of these earlier this year, and I like the way he turned out. I did his underscales. I did one color green. His back scales, I did a darker green. You know, a red for the tongue. His red eyes, because I put red eyes on anything as a monster. It just makes it look meaner. But I got another one of those I wanted to paint up. So let's get him a quick dry brush, since he was, you know, made to be supportless and printed on FDM printer. He is tough enough to handle a little dry brush. I don't have to worry about breaking off a little sword end or an arm. Just, you know, go over him lightly, but you can definitely see the details popping on this guy, which is what we want with a dry brush to do a quick slap chop. You know, if you really enjoy watching people paint and stuff like that, channel I recommend is the Miniature Hobbyist. I believe he's out of the UK somewhere. You can tell he has an accent, but he rambles on pretty much like I'm doing, but he does a great job of printing minis and painting them up. And he even says in his videos, you know, he used to paint minis, he didn't really care for it, he kind of just did it, and then he discovered doing slap chop, and you get stuff on the, you know, you get more, I don't know, you get more done. I don't know, for me, especially since I have very limited time to work on this stuff, if I see stuff getting off the table, even if it's not the greatest thing I ever painted, you know, you get that satisfaction of like, you know, this is done. Look what I did. It's complete. You could drop it on the table. You know, I have some of them sitting on my desk at work, and people are like, wow, that's great. And I look at them like, man, I spent like an hour maybe at most working on this thing. And, you know, if I would have spent a lot of time on it, I could have made it better. But instead of having one thing on my desk, I got 10 things on my desk. But yeah, I really like this model. You can see now that he's been dry brushed. The scales on the back are smaller, and then the ones underneath are a little bit larger. So we'll do a two-tone green. You know, red eyes, a red tongue. Bust out the bone color for all these horns and claws. Probably keep the two-tone greens going through, so his wings will be the same color as his underscales, with the like meaty part of the wings matching his back scales. But yeah, like Bright Minis, not a very big company, you know, they do all their stuff through Patreon, but he does some good work. Like, you know, for you pay $5, you get every mini that he's ever made. Really, it's all in that repository. So if you are new to 3D printing, you know, you get yourself an FDM printer, you're looking for something to print. A lot of miniatures, like, you're not printing this guy on an FDM. I mean, you can. Painted for Combat, another good channel. He has developed a way that he can take prints that were made to be for resin, and he puts resin-like supports on them and prints them on a 3D printer, an FDM 3D printer. He does have I believe it's a Bamboo Labs printer that he has a 0.2 nozzle, which is almost required if you want to do, you know, miniatures with this kind of detail. But if you're going like a chunkier guy, you don't need as much detail on them like this. You know, it's a great company, and for $5 you got access to the entire backlog. You can just download everything he has. there has to be at least a couple hundred different miniatures in there over the years. And I've printed out most of them at some point. But that is the Wyvern. That's mean there's a lot of detail in that face, a lot of character. Really like this guy. But that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out the next video right here. It's packed with more great content. And as always, keep on gaming.